What's up everybody? Eduardo Talbert here with monstertutorials.com. In today's tutorial we're going to make a longboard from scratch. And long story short of why we're making a longboard is that if you have watched some of my videos before, I've been learning how to skateboard. I started a few months ago and I've been practicing, but learning from scratch at my age is kind of hard. But we're working on it and I got one of the tricks done. So I was so happy that I did the trick that I said I'm going to reward myself. And I was in Florida on vacation and I went to the board shop there and I walked in and my reward was to buy a pair of skateboarding shoes. So I walked in, found the shoes, but then I looked at the skateboards and saw these beautiful, spectacular longboards. And I was mesmerized by them. I wanted one really bad. But again, I have to earn it. I have to learn how to skateboard real well. And second, they were between $200 and like $800. So I said, okay, maybe down the road. But the bug stayed in my head. So I did internet research. I would Google pictures and everything until I ran into an article on how they're made. And I kept searching that way and saw how somebody made their own. And I said, you know what? This is Monster Tutorials. How about we try to make our own and turn it into a tutorial? So this is the result. So I wanted it to look old school. That's why I gave it that finish and gave it a little bit of Monster Tutorials, including the initials right there, MT, Monster Tutorials. Pretty original, right? So that's what we're doing today, this longboard. So let's get started. Alright, let's get this started. For this tutorial, the materials, and I'll show you some footage of me getting it, some of the stuff that I got, are the following. We need some Baltic birch. You can also use Canadian maple or a few other woods, but I found this locally, like $12 for a 5x4 sheet. So that was pretty cheap, and I just went to the lumber yard and got the sheet. They were a distributor, so they couldn't cut it. So when I got home, I went and cut it like this. I'm on my way to a lumber yard that I found on the internet, and I emailed them, and they do have the Baltic birch in 1/8 inch. So I'm gonna go pick up one sheet. It comes in 5x5, so I'm going to buy one sheet and see if they can cut it into 5-foot wide strips for me. Okay, I got the Baltic birch out of the car. It looks like it's in pretty good shape, and this is what we're going to use as the base for the deck. I am going to cut this along the grain into 5 1-foot sections, and those will be sandwiched, as I'll show you later. Okay, I've marked this wood. It's 5 feet wide, and I marked it at every foot. And I'm drawing a line all the way across, and we're going to cut along those lines into 5 strips. And I think I'm going to use only 4, but I'm not sure yet. I cut the sheets into 5 1-foot strips along the grain, not across. So that's where the strength is for the board. I also found a template for a longboard on the internet, and I printed it out and then transferred it to this. And I will use that to transfer it onto the wood once it's glued together. The other thing I got at Harbor Freight was clamps, and I got 10 clamps. And this is instead of a press, right? This will hold the wood closed while it glues, and then while we give it shape, so while the glue dries. So I got that. I went to Lowe's and got the wood glue, and they had 3 different kinds. There was tight bond 1, 2, and 3, and I got 2. I don't know why. This is our first board, so we'll see if that works. I had to get a jigsaw because I don't have one, and this is to cut first the strips of wood, and then also to cut the general shape of the board once we transfer the template and it's all glued and dry. So I got this jigsaw, the cheapest one, $22 at Harbor Freight, links below, and I got a little kit of blades, and I used a rough blade right here to cut the strips, and then we'll use more of a finishing blade to cut the shape of the board once the glue is dry. Now those are the basic things to get the deck done. After that, then you need the hardware, and that is wheels, trucks, bearings, and hardware, which are the screws that attach to the skateboard. I ordered those from Amazon, and I'll show you which ones I got. And those should arrive today, so if I got them today, there'll be footage right here. Okay, so I've cut the wood into strips, right? And we're going to use 4 plies. I measured, and the 5 was a little too thick. It was more than half an inch, and the traditional deck is about a half inch. So 4 1/8 is 4/8, half an inch. So we're going to use 4 of those, and I have the template right there. So what I'm going to do is I'll move the camera over there, but we're going to start gluing these pieces together and then giving them the shape. Okay, we are ready to glue now. So I put my 4 pieces of wood here, but I've split them. I go 1 here and 3 here, and we're going to do this quickly so that the glue doesn't set, because as soon as you put the glue on, it's going to start curing or drying. So we're going to cover both pieces of wood. Then I'm going to flip this over that one, do the top and the bottom of this one, flip it, and do the last one. And we're going to have everything ready. I have my clamps here. And I have 2 skateboards that I'm going to use to lay the wood so it takes that bow that we want. So I'm going to show you how I do the first one, but then I'm going to speed up to the rest of the layers of wood. And all we do is put one on top of the other. Line them up real well. Alright, so that was the last layer that we put with the glue, and we go right to clamping it to give it some pressure. Now that everything is glued and sandwiched, I added the clamps. I put 10 clamps, but in hindsight I should have gotten about 20 or 30. So I had to use all my home clamps with a couple pieces of wood to hold everything nice and tight. Then I placed each end over a skateboard, as you can see, right there, about 6 inches. And then I put this bag of rocks on top of it with a towel in between so it doesn't mark it. And I checked overall that it's nice and even this way and this way, so there's no warpage. Now we go wait 24 hours. So I'm gonna go have a beer and wait for the Amazon people to come with the hardware for the longboard. So I'll see you in a minute. So we got the wheels, two sets of trucks, some bearings in that pill bottle, 2 spacers, and the hardware in there. It all came as a package from Amazon, and I put the link below. I let this dry for 48 hours. You're supposed to only need 24 hours, but I spent the whole day yesterday doing yard work and work around the house. So it's been 2 days, but you only need to do 24 hours. So I'm going to take these clamps off and we'll put on a table to put the template on it to start cutting the shape of the skateboard out. I have the wood on a table where I'm going to cut it, and here is my template. And I have modified it a little bit to be a pintail, which means that the end is tapers into a point as opposed to a square one. So I'm going to cut this out and then lay it on top of the wood and then trace it to transfer the template onto the wood. Alright, so this is cut. I'm just going to trace the shape onto the wood. So that's traced. Now we just gotta cut the shape out. I'm gonna cut slightly out because with the sanding we'll bring it to the perfect shape. Alright, I got the rough shape out, as you can see. Now we start sanding. I'm going to lightly sand the top and bottom surface because those are pretty straight. But the edges will need to have a nice round shape, so I'll focus on those. This is nice and smooth. I'll do that with the less coarse sandpaper, but for now I gotta knock all this stuff off. I am done sanding this, and I started with about an 80 grit just to knock the corners off, and worked all my way up to like a 600 grit, and it took me like days, not like days on end, but after work for like 20 minutes, half hour, I would sand it until now it's nice and soft. I went all the way to 600 grit, so it's time to paint it. I'm going to do a stripe design here. Okay, I drew a line down the middle. Now I'm going to do about the thickness of this ruler on each side, and we're going to tape that. Now I'm putting some tape on this side and on this side of the line. Okay, as you can see, I've taped both stripes right here, and I'm going to stain the middle, and I'm going to make our very own Monster Tutorial style stain because I don't have any. I want it to be blue, so I'm using blue food coloring and water. I'm using about 40 milliliters or cubic centimeters of water, and I'm doing about 12 drops of blue coloring. Okay, so I'm going to stir this little concoction here real well. I'm going to take a paper towel and just moisten it in the mix and then rub it on the wood. I'm not going to paint it on the wood because it will bleed under the tape, and we don't want that. We want a nice crisp line. And if we mess it up, we can sand it down or paint the whole thing blue. On the edges, I'm gonna get as dry as possible. So right now this wet paper towel will be going down the middle, mostly. Well, my hands are turning blue, so I'm wearing some gloves now. So there you go. I've stained that middle stripe in blue. I'm letting it dry. Now let's stain the outside. And this top part should be ready for a clear coat after it all dries. For these two sides, I'm going to use the same stain that we used for this guy. Otherwise, this stain will last until we die. So let's put it to good use. And I'm doing the same thing as with the blue. I'm not going to paint it and then wipe it because it'll bleed under the tape. Instead, I'm just going to rub it on. Alright, so that is done and stained blue and brown. This is a cognac color, and this is just blue food coloring. So I'm going to go ahead and peel the tape so that it can dry. Alright, how's that looking? I think it turned out pretty cool. I'm going to let this dry, and then we're going to put some polyurethane on top to give it a protective coating and a nice little shiny finish. So I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll go on to that next coat. Okay, while that dries, it's a perfect opportunity to talk about hardware. So these are the wheels on the trucks. If you're familiar with skateboarding, then you can skip this section to where we have put it all together. But if you're not and you're interested, I bought a whole package, like a kit from Amazon, and I'll put a link below, that comes with the wheels, bearings, the trucks, the hardware, and the spacers. And that's what these things look like. So okay, 2 of these, which are the trucks, and these are designed for a longboard, so they're a little bit wider than your regular skateboard. Some spacers, and that goes above the truck to give it some space so that the wheels don't hit the board when you turn. The hardware that mounts it all onto the board. Some wheels. I decided on white because if you notice, it's more of a classic look, so I thought white would be pretty cool. The next board that I'm going to make, which is kind of like a downhill, really steep carp, will be like crazy colors and everything. But this one, for me, is going to be more like a pretty piece of furniture. So white wheels and the bearings, and these are cleverly packaged, and they're called Riddle-In, and 8 bearings. So let's assemble this together, and then we'll get everything buttoned up. These are pretty cool and hefty, as you can see. So the way you assemble this is you take your bearings out, and you get 2 bearings per wheel. And all you're going to do is put the bearing in the wheel and press it in. There you go. We do the same on the other side, and we'll do that for all 4 of these. Alright, we'll finish assembling the trucks once they are on the board. So now let's go with the poly for that shiny finish. And the way this works is you pour it on a rag quite generously, and then just wipe it all over. Alright, I finished painting this and putting the wipe on poly, and I did 3 coats, and it's nice and smooth and shiny too, if you can see. There'll be better shots. So that's the top. So the top is pretty much done. Now the bottom, I haven't done anything with it. So I'm not sure, because I never worked with wood stuff, if I should have painted top and bottom and then stained top and bottom and then poly top and bottom. I did the top first. I'm going to flip it over and do the design on the bottom. Now, being that this is monster tutorials and all, I wanted to put a skull on the bottom. So I wanted to do a sugar skull. So I did a lot of search on the internet and printed a few of these, and then based on that I made my own design, which is this one. I don't know if you can see it with the light, but it'll be better once we put it on the skateboard. And I'm going to put that right in the middle of the board. And then this half I might stain it with the cognac stain on the top as well. But the skull, the sugar skull, will be right around there. So let's get started with that. I'm going to transfer this onto here. I'll start doing the shape in pencil. Then I'm going to divide the area top and bottom that will be stained. I will stain top and bottom, and then I'll start painting the skull onto the board. Alright, so that is stained and that is stained. Now I'm just going to peel these things off. There you go. Now let's start with the skull in the middle. And all I'm doing is tracing the whole skull so that it leaves a tiny little imprint in the wood where I can trace it again with pencil. Alright, I've transferred the design onto the board. So what I'm going to do is quite simple. I don't know if this is the way you're supposed to do it or not, but I'm going to take some acrylic paints and paint the sugar skull exactly like I want it. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to take a Sharpie and do the outlines. And once that's dry, we'll clear coat the whole thing and we'll see what happens. We are done with the aesthetic part of the board. So what we did, if you remember, was we stained blue, then cognac, and I left this unstained. I used a polyurethane on top, 3 or 4 coats, see how shiny it is. And then on this side, I stained the bottom and the top, and here in the middle, I just found on the internet a template, and used this as a guideline. If you can see, it's totally different, one from the other, but I used it for the general shape. Then I filled it out with the stuff that I wanted, like the MT for monster tutorials. So this part is done. This has been sprayed with a clear coat, and I might do another coat of polyurethane, but I'll see it later. So let's get to the hardware part. This part is nerve-wracking to me because it is where we drill the holes, and you have to make sure that the trucks are lined up straight so that the thing rolls true. So for this step, I ran a line down the middle up here, right from the point. There's a middle point here, and there's a line, you cannot see it, but it's there, and then the same on the bottom. We're going to mount the trucks there. So, word of caution. These are Longboard trucks, and they're called reverse kingpin. This is a penny board that I just got yesterday for Father's Day. My kids and my wife bought it for me. And this is your regular kingpin. So as you can see, that kingpin goes inside, but on a longboard, that kingpin goes out. So it'll be this bolt goes towards the front, unlike this one that goes towards the back. So just keep that in mind. If it's reverse kingpin, this goes towards the end of the board. It will be like that, with this bolt right here going that way. This kit, this trucks with wheels and everything, comes with spacers, and I'm using those as the template to mount it. As you can see, it has the holes, and if you notice, the kingpin is on the side where there's 4 holes, and then on this side there's only 2 holes. So if we go by the same thing, it will go like that. So this is towards the front. For this front truck, I'm going to mount it about 2 inches from the front. I've also made some lines on this spacer so I can see where the middle is. All I have to do is line these guys up. There you go, and then mark it. On the back, since it's narrower, I'm mounting the trucks about 6 to 8 inches from the end, about right there. There you go. Now let's drill these holes. So now that the holes are drilled, I'm just going to countersink them a little bit because the hardware, the screws, have a V shape, so that way they sit flush with the deck. Okay, so all I'm doing here is putting this ratchet to hold it, and then with the screwdriver screwing it from the bottom. Alright, we're almost done. This is the final step. So earlier we assembled the wheels with a bearing on each side. Now we mounted on the axle. So the axles from the truck should have come with 2 little rings. So you can see 1 and 2. So one stays on the inside, the other one you pull out, then you put your tire, the wheel, and then you put the washer back on, like that, and we're going to tighten this, but not too tight that it stops the wheel. There you go. Let's do that on all four, and we're ready to roll. Woohoo! We are done. This is totally complete. I'm going to take it for its maiden voyage. I'm going to take it to Florida in my vacation in 2 weeks. I was planning on having this completed between the first vacation and the last one. There was 4 weeks in between, and I said 4 weeks should be enough. This took me about 2 weeks, but I only did it part-time. I did it after work for an hour here, 10 minutes there, until we finally finished it. It was a lot of steps, I realized, and but nothing extremely difficult. Everything was doable. Most of the tools I already had. All I had to do is buy the jigsaw, was the only thing, plus the materials. So I think it turned out really cool. I really like how it rides. I like how it looks. And so I've documented the whole process on the website at monstertutorials.com, and I'll put the link below where you can see all the steps plus the materials list with links of where to get the stuff. And as you can see, if I could figure this out, you can too. And we will be making all kinds of cool things. So with that said, I'm going to leave you and let you know that this longboard is kind of a summer tutorial, and the next tutorial we're starting to work on our Halloween prep. So we'll be doing a lot of props. So I'll see you next time. For Monster Tutorials, I'm Eduardo Talbert. I will see you next time.